I'd like to tell you a little bit about the benefits of conference centres to cities and, of course, to Riga in particular. And the benefits of conference centres are clear. They are an engine to drive economic growth and job creation. One of the most obvious ways in which they do that is by attracting many visitors to the city who spend while they're in that city. Research has shown that all over the world, conference visitors spend an average of $675 per day. Quite a staggering figure, isn't it? Closer to home in the Baltic region, Denmark has recently done some research showing that they spend an average of €270 a day. So still a very admirable figure that we would definitely like to track more of to Riga, I'm sure you'll agree. But the economic benefits go beyond the direct spend of the visitors while they're here. And one of the most clearly researched benefits of conference centres, and the reason why so many cities have invested in them over recent years, is that they help to attract inward investment. They act as a showcase internationally, bringing visitors into the city who then see what an excellent place it would be to set up their business, to do more trade, and to use the skills of the people that are here in Riga and throughout Latvia. In addition to that, there is all year round demand. It's not as seasonal as leisure tourism. It has the opportunity to bring people in during the winter when it's harder to attract leisure visitors. There's also research proving that people that come to the city for a conference often return as a leisure visitor, so they come back and spend more money at a later date. They also bring partners with them, or they extend their visit while they're here for the conference. And up to 40% of people have done exactly that, and therefore are contributing more to the local economy. Worldwide, travel and tourism has a significant figure of $7.6 trillion US. And it's estimated that about 25% of that is down to what we call business travel and meetings. Meetings is part of that figure. So a huge figure of all the meetings that are taking place throughout the world. And Riga now has the opportunity to get a larger share of that pie. Looking at figures closer to home of what the benefits have been, Denmark has recently done a study identifying the value to be 2.7 billion euros. That includes the multiplier effect of the people employed in the industry, spending again in the economy. But a really significant figure, and I'm sure it's much higher than you might have imagined. And that, as I said, is coming from a figure of the visitors themselves spending 270 euros a day on average. Just to compare that figure, you can see the value of meetings to Australia, clearly on the opposite side of the world, 1.91 billion euros. We've recently done a study in the UK identifying the value to be 58 billion pounds, so 65 or so billion euros. It's really interesting when we look beyond the direct spend of the economic benefits into inward investment and how it's contributing to the economy as a whole. It really has some great impact in figure terms. But because of these impacts, it does make it a very competitive industry, if we call the meetings industry. In fact, it's contributing to all kinds of industries. 1,593 destinations worldwide, all competing to get meetings to their destination because it's so valuable once you can attract these people. Those cities are coming from 159 countries. That source is from the International Convention and Congress Association of the number of destinations that they're recording meetings from. And if you look at the top destinations attracting meetings, and for these figures, I'm talking about international association congresses. These are the conferences where groups of Cardiologists, as Martin's mentioned, in fact that's the largest congress that takes place anywhere in the world with over 10,000 attendees. Cardiologists, any kind of medical specialism, science, all kinds of different international associations. There's 21,000 of those meetings happening on an annual basis throughout the world. And the figures on the screen in front of you are those for the top countries throughout the world attracting them, with not really a surprise that the USA is right at the top with 925. But perhaps a little more surprising is Germany's position in the top 5 here. And that has changed very recently. In the last 5 years, Germany has become much more successful in attracting these international association meetings. For a very long time, you would have seen France in the second position in this table. But now it's moved down to 5th place, as you can see, and Germany significantly taking a much bigger share of the pie. So if we have a look at the countries a little closer to home, the Nordic and the Baltic countries, how are they doing in comparison with those top 5? And you can see that the top Nordic country attracting these meetings is Sweden, followed by Denmark. But, interestingly, look at Poland's position in the rankings. All of the countries on this table have congress centres and have invested in the infrastructure that's necessary to attract these international association meetings. Clearly, you need to be able to get people to your country. You need to have lots of frequent and regular air routes. You need to have the hotels. You need to have an attractive destination that's going to appeal to people to come to, which you most obviously have here in Riga. But the Congress Centre and the ability of the Congress Centre to have the facilities for an association conference, which requires not just one meeting room like the one that we're in today, but lots of different meeting rooms of different sizes. Most association congresses start with a plenary session for the maximum number of conference visitors. And after that, which that could just be for a couple of hours or half a day at the most, after that, what happens is a series of breakout sessions, all talking about different specialist subjects of different sizes. So they require all the combination of meeting rooms to allow those to take place. But even more importantly, for these international association conferences, is exhibition space. The exhibition element is what funds the conference. It helps the association to bring in revenue that allows them to take the conference out to their delegates at a very reasonable registration fee. So it's vital that you have up to about even 10,000 square metres, but on average it's 2,000 square metres of exhibition space that's required for these congresses. So what's happening within these countries that are able to attract these numbers is that they have the facilities to do that, and they have the accommodation and the destination, obviously. And Poland has invested in these congresses in very recent years. And if you'd seen this table just a few years ago, Poland would have been way down the rankings. It's been able to attract a much larger market share by investing in the necessary facilities for these events. And let's have a look how you compare. Sorry, these figures have slightly gone off centre, but you can see that the top country closer to you, your nearest neighbour, Estonia, attracted 73 international association meetings in 2015, the most recent year that we have the figures for. 47 of those took place in Tallinn. In contrast, for Latvia, 58, not quite as successful as Estonia, but Riga taking the greatest share of those that are coming to Latvia. Lithuania, even fewer conferences taking place there, and most of those in Vilnius. And the opportunity is there for you to be attracting many more of these conferences, and if Poland can do it, you most definitely can. So what's needed in order for you to increase that figure and attract more association meetings, and in fact more corporate meetings and meetings of all sectors that all help to grow your economy? we're looking at Skanste at the opportunity to develop a conference centre and concert hall together. So there are dual benefits of doing that. And I thought I would share with you one of the places that I have had a lot of involvement with is the ICC, the International Convention Centre in Birmingham. This is a convention centre and symphony hall together that opened in 1991. So it's been open for some 25 years now. And they have seen the status of the city of Birmingham change beyond all recognition by the regeneration catalyst that was created by this conference centre and symphony hall together. They've managed, historically, Birmingham was a manufacturing city. The basis of the economy was making cars and manufacturing of all kinds. As has happened with many countries throughout the Western world, that economy has gone. There's no longer any manufacturing there. But the interesting thing as a legacy is that the conference centre has helped change the base of the economy in Birmingham to a service sector economy and has helped grow that economy significantly. But they chose to develop a conference centre and a symphony hall together. And by adding the symphony hall, they were able to attract a world-class conductor for their orchestra and have the City of Birmingham Symphony Orchestra take a place on a world stage that they were never able to do before. And in fact, they then later attracted your very famous Latvian conductor to work here before he was enticed to go to the US and take over in Boston. But this combination of having a concert hall and a conference centre together works extremely well in terms of growing the economy, not just for the local people, but in creating jobs for people as well. And another example of where this has worked very well is in Belfast, and I'm intentionally choosing cities that are not capital cities, where they haven't had the leisure tourism base, where you may say, well, wouldn't they be successful anyway? It's really interesting how conference tourism can help grow those cities that wouldn't necessarily have the advantages of the leisure tourism destinations. And Belfast in Northern Ireland had a lot of history of troubles and wasn't the top destination on people's minds when they were thinking of attracting their international association delegates. They had a concert hall that opened in 2008, and last year they added 4,000 square metres of space that creates a conference centre within the whole complex of the Belfast Waterfront Centre. And you can see the cost of that was nearly £30 million, so around 33, 34 million euros, by adding this 4,000 square metres. And their first year, they opened just a year ago. They have attracted 300 events. 34 of those are international association conferences. They were 140% above the target that they'd set for that year pre-opening, and over 50,000 delegates generated £21 million for Belfast. So it's been a really big success for them. So that's just a couple of examples of where concert halls and conference centres can work well together. And it's a really good opportunity for Riga to take now to help generate the benefits that these centres can grow and augment for you. And I think it's a really interesting time because Riga's not the only city in your Baltic region that is looking at this. This is the plan for the Vilnius Congress Centre, which is about to break ground. They are redeveloping a former sports hall, adding the space for the breakout rooms, creating the exhibition space and the combination of facilities that I mentioned earlier. And in Tallinn, although they already have a concert hall, a quite successful Nordia concert hall, they haven't got the combination of facilities and they haven't got the space next to their concert hall to develop the conference facilities. So they are looking at Linnahall, a former entertainment centre that's been left vacant for several years, and right now they're looking at turning that into a conference centre. There's an old ice skating rink in the lower basement area of this building that they're looking to knock down and turn into the conference centre, and they would then revitalise their auditorium within this building, which seats up to 5,000 people. So there is a lot of competition to take the preeminent role in the cities within the Baltic region. But I think Riga has the great opportunity of your more air routes and the wider versatility of your architecture and everything that is here in Riga for you to take this position. But all of these international association congresses rotate around the world. It isn't just a question of attracting it once and thinking that that's the end of it. They will go to Europe. 50% of those 21,000 take place in Europe. And then they will choose to go either to the Far East, increasingly, where the emerging countries, China and India, are attracting these events. But if you bid for these congresses in competition with Vilnius and Tallinn, if you don't win it one year, you have the opportunity to win it another year. So it is a good business in that sense. There isn't a finite amount of congresses that you can ever win. There's always an opportunity for the future. So just looking at the opportunity for combining a congress centre with a concert hall, there are some real benefits of doing so. Clearly, by operating both together, you would save operating costs. The congress business tends to book a lot longer ahead than the concert schedule, so you have the opportunity of fitting in the conferences, using the concert hall for conference plenary space, but also you minimise the building costs. The staff can double up with the roles that they undertake, and you have those advantages. But it does mean that you do have to think about certain aspects of the design. You do need to be able to separate people as much as you need to merge them, and you do have the added needs of a concert hall, of its specialist acoustics, the dressing rooms for the performers, and so on. But it can be done very successfully, and you can see here the multi-uses, a large exhibition space being used here for a very large plenary space, but also can be used for dance competitions. So with the right design aspect, you can make them very successful. I would just like to reinforce that it's not only the facilities that matter in attracting these congress centres. The whole success of a destination depends on the combination of the facilities, the service, and by that I mean the welcome and the way that everybody is greeted and looked after once they arrive in your city. That's hugely important. And it's something you already do really well here in Riga. So you have that opportunity to grow that welcome and to increase that service throughout the city. But it also needs to be marketed. When there are 1593 destinations throughout the world trying to attract some of this business, clearly it requires a whole marketing approach in order to even get in the playing field and have the opportunity to bid for those congresses. And one of the most significant ways that happens is through ambassador programs. Your specialists in a particular medical field, a particular scientific field, technology, whatever it is, play a huge role in attracting the conference to the city. And the ambassador program that is needed, and by that I mean encouraging those people to stand up and take the front role of hosting the conference, and so adding all the support that they need to help them to do that. They have a day job as a surgeon or a professor or whatever clearly their day-to-day role is. Taking on the organisation of a huge congress may not seem like the greatest benefit to them, even though it will give them increased profile and standing in the future, and that's the reason why they should do it. But they do need a lot of support from a convention bureau in order to do that. And it's good to see that you have set up a national convention bureau now that can work alongside your city convention bureau to help this to happen. And I will just leave you with this finishing comment. It may seem a very competitive market, and it definitely is, But you only have to be 1% more successful than your competitors in order to win the business and to gain the conferences. You are a very attractive destination because hotels are at a lower rate than they are in other cities. You have a great range of accommodation here, from 5-star hotels right down to lower and budget end hotels. The old town, the Art Nouveau area, everything that is happening in Riga makes it a very appealing destination. But particularly those ambassadors and the specialist fields that you're working on here is what will help to attract those delegates. So that added to the right facilities for these congresses to take place, and you will be well away to be more successful in future. Thank you.
Paldies.